Hello everyone and welcome to the Activist Lawyer podcast. My name is Sarah Henry and I'm your host to this podcast, which offers a platform for lawyers to share their story and their journey into law and activism. Our guests will discuss the challenges and highlights of their work, as well as important cases, opinions on legal and political matters, and will offer up advice and tips for anyone interested in pursuing a career in human rights law, public interest law, or criminal justice. The Activist Lawyer podcast is brought to you by the Granite Podcast Studio. Thank you so much for listening. Today, I am joined by Sahar Francis, a Palestinian lawyer and human rights defender who, at the time of recording, is currently touring Ireland to speak about Israel's new racist execution law and the ongoing abuse of Palestinian political prisoners, of which there are currently some 10,000, including 350 children. And Israel, as we know, has recently passed the Prisoners' Execution Law, which codifies state-sanctioned political murder of Palestinians and turns prisons, already arenas of torture, violence, abuse and extrajudicial death, into legalised killing grounds. So in this episode, it's really a call to action, as I say in it, because it's fantastic to hear from somebody like Sahar, who has 3 decades behind her of working very closely with Palestinian prisoners, only to find that the last 3 years has been absolutely unimaginable. And she goes through some of the details about the prisoners as well and how you can actually get involved whether you're a lawyer or not. So it's a really important episode. I'm so delighted to have had the opportunity to speak to Sahar Francis. And yes, please share this episode. And if you've any questions about it, we'd love feedback as well and to hear from you and get involved, please, if you can. Sahar Francis, welcome to the Activist Lawyer podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me today.
Thank you. It's my honor to be hosted by you today, Sarah. Thanks for this opportunity.
Fantastic. Now, I know you're here in Ireland. You've a busy schedule. You're talking in what's a very important and profound week. Yesterday was Palestinian Prisoners' Day. So a lot of what we discuss today will focus on that part of your work. And really, you've spent nearly 3 decades defending Palestinian prisoners. So I'm wondering, could you describe maybe this current moment that we're experiencing and that we're witnessing compared to earlier periods in your work over the past 3 decades, Sahar?
I would say it's really since the genocide started back in 2023, we are enduring a very dangerous moment in our life as Palestinians in general, and especially the prisoners. They were suffering from unprecedented deterioration in all levels in their life and their imprisonment, starting from the first moment of the arrest all the way along through the interrogation, the transfers, the trials, and sitting in their cells and rooms. I've never, honestly, in all my 3 decades work and documenting horrible cases of torture in the 90s and after the Second Intifada, I've never expected I would be dealing with such horror and dehumanization elements and practices on daily level against thousands of Palestinian prisoners like we did in the last 2 years and a half. It's really, and I was in my work all these years exposed as well to other experiences all around the world. It's not just us Palestinians that we face imprisonment and captivity and mass incarceration policies. I heard the stories about the sexual harassment and the rape in other genocidal contexts, and I didn't believe that we will experience this. Yeah. But it was so harsh to see how we reached this point where all these policies, especially the sexual harassment, became such a systematic, widespread policy inside the Israeli detention facilities. So I would say that the last 3 years were very, very difficult, very harsh, not just for me on the personal level, for all lawyers or field researcher or advocates or anyone who worked with the prisoners' issues and the families and the survivors and the disappeared people. We are left after the genocide in Gaza with thousands disappeared that we don't know if they are in detention or if they were killed in detention or they were killed inside Gaza Strip. And would be a huge case to continue to deal with even after the ceasefire. It's still continuing. The suffer of the prisoners is still continuing. And all this exchange deal that took place after the ceasefire, actually, it didn't solve the issue of the prisoners. And I'm always wondering, when I decided to start to work with the prisoners' issues, I didn't believe I will spend so many years working in defending this group, because I was always looking for the issue of the prisoners totally connected with the occupation, which means I was believing that the initiatives, the diplomatic initiative, the what's so called the Oslo process, or later the Second Intifada, or any kind of discussion will bring an end to this occupation. So for me, automatically, it reflects that all the prisoners should be released. And look, today we are still having almost 10,000, 9,600 prisoners sitting inside prison. Hundreds of them, they spent more than 25 years in prison so far.
And many of them very, very young as well. And many of them detained without due process, without trial. So there are so many fundamental issues, breaches of law, breaches of international law associated with the issues that you're working on. And you would just ask, how on earth can this get any worse? Yet the world watched in the past number of weeks as Israel advanced, and members of the Knesset celebrated legislation expanding the use of the death penalty, which is called the Prisoner's Execution Law. So you've watched this, Sahar, and you've seen how this has unfolded. What does this mean for lawyers like yourself and also Palestinian detainees who are already facing extreme torture, violence and abuse on a daily level?
It was really a very dark moment, but in the same time, I was a bit, how to put it, we were always alerting about this system as an apartheid system, as an awful regime that keeps violating international law without accountability. And in Europe and in other countries, they would take the Israeli governments and the Israeli state as the only democracy in the Middle East. And I think now it's more clear that the problem is with the whole system and not individual cases. So seeing Ben-Gvir celebrating in this way, it just reflects how serious the discrimination and the violations of all standards in the textbook of the international law, the international humanitarian law, the human rights law, that really they are committing, and it's the time to put it in context and to discuss sanctions against these states that violates so basic rules and international obligations that as a state member in the United Nations, committed to the UN Charter, to all the main conventions, the political and civil rights, basically that protects the right to life. Yeah. And against death penalty, Israel now, after all these years, are violating these serious commitments they made when they became member in this international community. Allow me to take a bit more time to describe for you the legal system that we are operating in as Palestinian lawyers against the Palestinian prisoners. They didn't need this law. First and most, Israel, the authorities and the settlers are executing Palestinians on a daily basis and are killing prisoners inside the prison, causing the death of prisoners inside the prisons without any legislation, without any legal framework that will put this policy in a legal perspective. They're doing it outside of the law, daily executions, out of the torture, the physical abuses that the prisoners were enduring since October 23. More than 89 detainees lost their life inside custody for medical neglect, for physical attacks and torture. This is huge in less than 3 years. And these are just the people that we know their identity. These are the cases that we were able to document the circumstances, the identity of the people who died, why they died, and in some of the cases they were forced to implement autopsy in order to decide what's the reason for the death. There's hundreds that they died in custody, especially from the Gaza Strip, that we don't know their names, we don't know the circumstances of their killing, and not including all those who were killed either by the occupation forces in these 3 years or the settlers. Just this morning, they shooted a Palestinian guy claiming that he tried to enter to a settlement. Who knows if was true? No one will investigate the occupation forces if this is true or not, and the file will be closed, and another martyr and another person would be added to the list. So actually, and on the other side, the legal structure, the military court that is imposed on the Palestinian people under the occupation is so far from being considered fair trial procedures standards. And I think I can point to endless studies and reports and investigation led by international groups like lawyers or judges or UN bodies, and everyone agreed that this system is so far from being considered a just system, and Israel actually violating seriously the Fourth Geneva Convention, the Hague Convention, all and every rule in relation to the treatment of prisoners under occupation in these military courts. Although, of course, the Fourth Geneva Convention enabling the occupation to have such military court system, but Israel got much beyond the limitations and the restrictions that the Fourth Geneva Convention set for the occupiers. And this is why, for example, Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur for Palestine, in her report in June 23, around the imprisonment and the military court system, she called clearly to dismantle this system because it's really violating the international law, and it becomes a war crime and the crimes against humanity. And now we can confirm that it's part of the genocidal actions against the Palestinian people, because torture and causing death of detainees by torturing them, definitely could be considered as part of the genocide. So the military system imposed on the prisoners becomes part of the genocide in our context. And this is really very serious. Puts very serious responsibility, not just on us as Palestinian lawyers or human rights defenders on the local level. This is a very serious burden on the international society, in the lawyers and the human rights defenders in the international level. This model that Israel is trying to push as the way how to treat terrorists, because at the end of the day, Israel is trying to set that this is the way how we supposed democratic countries to deal with terrorist people. And would become acceptable on the international level. And this is why it's very serious and very important for us as collective human rights defenders communities to take it seriously, our responsibility to stop, defeat, and dismantle all these standards that Israel, with the support of course, the United States, are trying to impose. Will cause a huge change for the whole international legal system. It's not just anymore just about our rights as Palestinians. Imagine that torture would be normalized, health neglect would be normalized, the right to life by executions, unfair executions, arbitrary detention, as you mentioned, thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Almost more than 50% of the 9,600 detainees are sitting inside detention based on the administrative detention policy or the unlawful competent procedures against those from Gaza. It's arbitrary detention. It's illegal according to the international standards. These policies to be normalized and accepted, I think on the long term, it will destruct the international human rights system and the international humanitarian law standards. We cannot tolerate such practices against Palestinian prisoners and think that this is the end. It's just going to be against Palestinians. It will spread and affect and shell around against all oppressed communities in different countries, in different contexts. If Israel goes away without any accountability for these serious crimes they're committing.
As you say, it has been normalised. This system of brutality has been normalised, and how it's astonishing that leaders, and I'm thinking of the EU as well recently, but they're turning a blind eye to this. And you've gone through policies, examples, there are systems that are in place that are in blatant violation of basic humanitarian standards. And I know, Sahar, that you have worked extensively with UN mechanisms and engaged with the International Criminal Court as well. In your opinion, what avenues exist to challenge or hold Israel and others accountable for laws like this?
When I studied law and started working with the prisoners and trying to strategize how to weaponize these tools in support of the Palestinian prisoners, honestly, I believed that this system can work. And it's a very perfect safeguarding for these people, the prisoners. But unfortunately, it was so disappointing, the least to say, about the system, especially after the genocide. When you see clearly, bluntly, that the system is double standard system. It's working whenever the states wants it to work. And when it comes for the less strong people, and when they want to protect their friends, they know how to do the things in a way. And you lose a bit of your trust and your hope that, and this is the dangerous thing that we should ask ourselves, because this system was developed in order to be the protection and the norm for bringing justice for everyone equally, not in a very hypocritic way as we are seeing it. But still, this doesn't mean that we totally lost hope and that we don't have responsibilities. I mean, we still are struggling in order to bring all these cases, all this information to the UN different bodies, like the Commission of Inquiry, for example, that was established in 2021, just to focus on the root causes of this conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian issue. And it's a very important platform for us to feed information, because they're issuing very powerful reports that should be taken by states. I mean, the main problem with the international system, the way it's activated. And I think the genocide in Gaza reflected the main serious problems in this system that I think there is a responsibility to change them, like the veto issue in the Security Council and the fact that the UN system cannot be all these reports, all these decisions and resolutions, for example, that is taken on the level of the General Assembly or the Human Rights Council or any other small, like the reports of the Committee Against Torture, for example. How many times the Committee Against Torture requested Israel, for example, to change their internal laws when it comes for the crime of torture, and they never respected this. So we have to think about how we can make this more effective. This system can work more in order to really protect the people that it came and were designed and developed in order to protect these people. It can't be just an empty process that we just invest and think about the huge investment the whole international community put all these decades in order to develop after the Second World War this system to reach this point where it's very clear for every simple person in the world that it depends on your color, in your ethnical identity, in your region, whether it could work and protect you or not. So, I mean, we will continue to approach these bodies, including the ICC, but it should be put in perspective. For example, the ICC. I don't expect as a lawyer working with the Palestinian prisoners that the ICC would have the capacity to go after every individual police or soldier or individual in this Israeli military system or the prison system that violated the international law. No, it doesn't work like this. We all know that the ICC, if it will really take the case of the prisoners, for example, they would go after people like Ben Gvir and other ministers, maybe the prime minister, but this is very powerful if it works, But we can see that even the prime minister with the warrant arrest that was issued 2 years ago, he's still able to travel over Europe. No European country is taking initiative, although they are all committed and obliged by the fact that they are members in the ICC to arrest war criminals, and they're not doing it. So this is disappointing. I mean, as lawyers, we should also intensify the individual cases initiated in different countries against perpetrators. I know that legal groups like the Hind Rajab Foundation, for example, are pushing hardly on individual cases, but it's not always as well optimistic. In some countries like Lithuania, yesterday, 2 days ago, rejected one of the cases that this group submitted against a soldier involved in the genocide. So also this means, and this is where the role of the local human rights defenders become more serious and more needed. I mean, the awareness of the local lawyers about the dangers of your own system. If your own system is not going to respect their own obligations under international law and international standards, you should push more in order to force the country to take it seriously, the obligations according to the treaties and the human rights treaties that they committed themselves for. And it's really, think about torture. If you're not going to support Palestinians to end the torture against the Palestinian prisoners, it will be normalized, and soon you will find that your own governments can find a way how to enable torturing opposition or other groups in your own communities. And this is why it should be really taken more seriously, that torture should be abolished totally. And I think for the grassroots and the people, the ordinary people, not the professionals, the legal experts, we have a powerful tool of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign that we have to strategize. And still, we have long way to raise awareness all around the world about the importance of making these connections, because people would wonder why I should take the issue of the prisoners and connect how the issue of the prisoners, for example, in Palestine is connected with the PDS campaign. It's very important to understand that all the industry of prisons and military security technology developments are connected. Believe me, all the technologies that the Israeli police or Israeli security service is developing to control the prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners community, is sold and discussed with the United States, with European countries, with other countries in the world, and they're sharing information and experiences, and they're selling these technology things. And this is why we should focus, for example, if Microsoft or if Volvo or if any other international corporation is involved in the industry of prisons inside Israel, and try to name it and to act against these companies, like we did in 2014. Damir, as a prisoner organization that I worked in for long years, they initiated at that time a campaign on the global level with the PDS, the Palestinian PDS movement, but with all the other networks of international groups working on prisoners' issues in the UK, in Morocco, in South Africa, in the United States, in Turkey, all around. And we were picking G4S as a security company that was involved in the prison industry inside Israel. And not just in Israel, G4S was also involved in prison systems in South Africa, in the United States, in the UK, and they were violating laws and international human rights standards in these countries. So it was a successful campaign that we built a joint strategy that this company is responsible for violations of human rights, not just in the Palestinian context.
But
and I think this is the good strategy, how to make these links and these campaigns together, that these international corporations are actually violating rights of people, different groups all around the world, like on the environmental level, on agriculture, even on health issues, on healthcare systems.
Yes.
We can find medicine companies or
pharmaceuticals
that are violating human rights.
Yeah. We've seen it here. We've seen it even with agriculture here locally. Imports from here go into Israel, even pay systems as well within the health service. So I just want to summarize, because Sahar, what you've said is so important. It actually leads into my next question, which was about how listeners and lawyers and activists can help, because it's really hard to see past the fact that where there is lacking or no political will on an international level, how this system will work. But as you say, we can't lose hope. It's all we have, and we have to keep going. But on a local level and at a national level, lawyers could be getting together using their skills. And I know we have quite a few groups here in Ireland. I'm lucky to be part of some of them that are working on the compliance issue. So seeing how companies, local companies, are complicit and forming that link and that chain. BDS, of course, everybody can get behind that. You don't need to be a lawyer or anything, everybody. And I think there is a good, strong community, especially particularly here in the north of Ireland. But it's forming those chains, forming those links, and looking maybe beyond the international system, which you can't really blame people for being extremely frustrated and losing hope there to a certain extent, but to do things on a local level and not just saying, well, look, the Palestinian prisoners, as you said, it's happening in Palestine. It will affect everybody, and we, our countries, are possibly contributing. The companies that we buy from and support are possibly contributing. So it's to peel all of that back and look at what we're doing and what we can do as individuals and as smaller activist groups and lawyers in our own country. So I think that's brilliant advice.
Yeah, because I think it's really affecting every one of us. We are not, the fact that we were sanctioned by the Israeli side and the US lately last June declared and added Al-Damir actually to the blacklist. Honestly, this is a very powerful example about how, as a human rights organization, imagine out of the blue, you would become a terrorist group.
Yeah.
But this is very serious, affecting your existence and your ability to work. And it's not going to just affect, imagine if they were succeeding in doing it against Palestinian group, what will stop them from doing it against any Irish organization that is not going along with their policies and you're opposing and you're working against their interests? They will declare you and you will lose your bank account, your ability to financially support your work. You will lose your website, your database, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your Facebook, all your existence on this social media network.
Yeah.
And it's very serious. This is the way how they silence you. And I mean, this is why we should really start to think about alternatives for all these companies. When Microsoft decides to punish Damir and block their cloud service so they don't have access to their legal data, should be acceptable. Can happen for any legal organization or any human rights body. Yeah. They sanctioned Francesca Albanese and another 4 judges in the ICC. Is it supposed to be acceptable? I mean, it is really very serious that we have to be aware that we are not safe anymore, not as individuals, not as groups and organizations or social support groups. We are vulnerable and we have to think collectively how we are going to face this awful attack against us and efforts to silence us and to affect our work. It's not just about Palestine and the Palestinian groups. And we have to make these links, how these international huge corporations and companies are collaborating together to control and affect our personal space, our personal life, our safety, our security as individuals and as collectives, and to work against it. Like, I think that the world is becoming so terrifying as a space.
Yeah. Really
and we should take it seriously to think about how we are going to join efforts in order to stop it. Everyone is responsible about his own place.
Exactly. Well, finally, Sahar, just on a personal note, I'd like to just ask you how you have the courage to continue your work, because this is, I mean, to say challenging is, I don't know, a stronger word. It must be very, very difficult. And also, what's next for you and your colleagues as you continue, to fight this grave injustice for Palestinian prisoners and their families and try and get some sort of justice and accountability?
To be honest, it have been a very, very difficult 3 years. I wouldn't pretend to be a super woman that can handle it. No. Honestly, like, there's moments where I cry, where I really lose any hope and feel so bad that I spent 30 years of my life really trying to seek some positive things and to see all this horror is enabled and is happening in front of our eyes, and all this human rights system collapsing, the least to say. But we can't lose hope. I learned also in these 3 years that even the small things, the very small things, like locating a detainee and informing his mother that he's alive and he's held in this prison or that prison, the difference to the voice of this mother is giving you hope, is giving you strength to continue. But not just this, I mean also the support of the international people, the solidarity, the actions that we saw as Palestinians happening in the world in this like very strong, massive way. This is what keeps us hopeful. This is what helped us to realize that we are not alone and there is hope and we should continue. This is what brings me to wake up every morning and to continue this struggle. And I think collectively, we really can be making a difference for a better future for the Palestinians and for all oppressed people all over the world. So this is a key, and this is not slogans. Honestly, the small initiatives that we are all involved in different ways, this is what gives us hope to continue. But it's not easy because the other side is so strong, still so strong, and able to really destroy. And what makes me more worry is really this war that happened in the last 2 months. The fact that Israel and the United States are repeating the Gaza example, and they are able to do it, like how come the international society tolerating that a country is bombing hospitals,
again,
universities, medical factories? How come we tolerate such actions? And this is why we should really continue this pressure against wars, against military industry, against weaponizing science for oppressing people and so on. And I hope that we will be seeing the positive impact. And believe me, I think I'm not alone. Like all of my colleagues in all these 3 years, we were reaching this point that we were so depressed, so hopeless, but also encouraging each other, the courage that was, and the support from the very close friends, like on the organizational level, for example. Without the support of our network, of our close friends in Europe, even in the United States, people were courage enough, with the risk that they could be individually taken to court in supporting groups like Damir or the other Palestinian groups that were designated as well or listed in the US list and sanctioned. This is what made the difference. This is what enabled us to find alternatives. I mean, for us, the issue of the prisoners is not a work and a daily job that we do in order to be able to live and survive. It's really the connection with our struggle as a people to the self-determination. It's about the idea of supporting prisoners and working on the prisoners' issues as part of the struggle for self-determination. And this means we have to find alternatives. It's not about us as individuals, it's about the cause.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if Sahar, as a lawyer, continues to work in Damir or not. If it's not about the board if they continue to support the organization or not. It's about the community, if they believe in the case of the prisoners or not. I think people, and especially young people, could be so creative to find a way how they can continue the vision, how they can continue the mission, and how to protect themselves and be able. And again, without the support of the friends all around, in also in strategizing to find alternatives, we wouldn't survive.
And Sahar, where can listeners find out more information or, what's next in terms of your work?
Allow me to end with a recommendation also for the audience. If they need more information and legal studies or reports about specifically the prisoners' issues, because we didn't have enough time to discuss deeply the current situation of the prisoners, the serious crimes like the torture, the abuses, the sexual harassment, the starvation, the healthcare neglect, all these policies they were facing in the last couple of years, I would recommend people to visit the website of Al-Damir. It's still active, although with all the difficulties, but we were forced to change from aldamir.org to aldamir.ps because of the Israeli sanctions. And we write Al-Damir, ADDAMER. .ps, where you can find, and especially the latest reports about the conditions inside the prisons. Of course, there's other Palestinian organizations as well. Via our website, you can reach other organizations' information, and I think it's a really very good opportunity to learn more about the case of the prisoners and to see how you can support and connect the issue of the prisoners with the daily solidarity work that people are involved in Ireland and beyond. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Not at all. And we will share the links as well in our show notes to the site that you mentioned. Sahar Francis, thank you so much for sharing your work, your insights. And I feel like this is a real call to action as well, that we can do more as individuals, as communities, as lawyers, as non-lawyers. So thank you so much for speaking to me today and for taking the time out from your busy Irish trip. So best of luck with all of your work. And I've really taken a lot from today's conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Sarah. It's really an honor, and I'm so pleased to share with you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for joining me today. If you like the show, please remember to share and leave a review if you have a moment. And you can also check out our website, www.activistlawyer.com, where you will see some blog articles written by our guests and contributors, as well as some fabulous Activist Lawyer merchandise.
This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team, using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.